Hello there! I'm Squire Callahan Ridgeborn, almost a Battlemaster, definitely a wizard, and tonight I'm joined by Vin Oleandrin, a Paragon Assassin of the Rising Winds. Vin, thank you for being on the show tonight. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah, of course.
Vin just recently got her Paragon at the March event that was just last weekend for us, but it'll be about a month out for all of you at home. Vin, you were the Warcrat for that event. What was it like being the Warcrat and getting your Paragon all at once? Was that overwhelming?
To say I was overwhelmed is a bit of an understatement. It was a lot. It was a big event for me.
Yeah, there was a lot going on there. You ended up getting 4 or 5 awards at that, didn't you?
Yeah, I got my Master Garber, Paragon Assassin, my ninth dragon. I got quite. It was a lot. It was just overwhelming.
There's a good stack of awards there. Vin, how long have you been playing Amtgard for?
About 3 years.
Okay. And have you been playing Assassin that entire time?
Yeah, since pretty much day one.
Okay. What drew you to the Assassin class specifically?
Big Skyrim fan. And I definitely played, stealth dagger, bow assassin kind of vibes. So when I was reading over all the classes, it just went hand in hand for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have only ever played bow assassin in Amtgard, I think once. So, but.
Why do you love the Assassin class so much? What made you stick with it?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. I was, when I start doing something and set my mind to it, that's just kind of until I get to the end. And I've been with like that with most things in my life. So I started doing it and was like, oh, this is fun. I think I can like get pretty good at this. So I just kept doing it.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your Paragon journey? Did you have anyone you were working with to become a Paragon Assassin?
I like to think of myself as a sponge. So I will ask anyone that is willing to talk to me questions about something that I think they are good at. And I will just take all of that information and try my best to put it into use. My fighting company is by far the biggest supporters of me getting up to that next level. Always pushing, but never like in a condescending way, which is very comforting. Ash and Artie and Yorick all like very much were helping step by step build me into a better spot as far as assassin goes.
Awesome. For anyone who's not from the Rising Winds, Artie and Yorick and Asher are all battle knights at this point here in the Rising Winds. And which company are you with?
Yokai.
Yokai. How do you incorporate being an assassin with fighting company cohesiveness? Because assassins usually are doing flanking or counter flanking, and they're usually running off on their own. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think what can take an assassin from being a good assassin to being a paragon is understanding how to pinpoint those spots that are, flanking, but you're doing it for the betterment of the entire group. So you're not taking people out for the sake of taking people out. You're doing it so your frontliners can get a better advantage or something along those lines.
Okay. So, would you say that you're primarily a flank fighter? You're getting into the back end of the other team?
Flank fighter or distraction. I like to think that I'm kind of 50-50 because they're not necessarily the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that assassins are very good at either being not seen at all or being the one that everybody's looking at. So you've got to kind of use that to your advantage as best as possible.
All right. What do you think the minimum equipment is to play assassin? Let's say we got some new player. What are you telling them that they need to be a successful assassin?
If somebody walked up to me and just wanted to try it, honestly, with the new archetypes, 2 short swords, and you're good. Honestly, you could probably get away with a single if you're quiet enough. So not a lot, really. Not my preferred kit, but that's all you would necessarily need to get started.
What is your preferred kit for playing assassin?
My preferred kit is 2 shorts, and then I usually run with a bag of throwies on me as well.
Okay.
That's kind of my go-to, and 2 points of armor all over.
What kind of throwies do you use?
So I have 3 Cade hammers that I absolutely love, the little tomahawk-looking ones, and then I made just a bunch of makeshift. They almost look like little sushi rolls,
Mm,
but yeah.
okay. Assassin is one of those classes that can fall into cliches a lot of times with look the part. How can a player avoid that and make Assassin their own?
With me personally, I know for a large portion of kind of the middle of when I was playing Assassin, I kind of was going towards a poisonous frog look. So I would paint part of my face like bright pink or bright blue,
Hmm?
and then wear all black, kind of like poisonous frog. So I thought that that was an interesting take on the look the part version. But really, I mean, your assassin can be anything that you necessarily want it to be. It doesn't have to be this like all black sneaky, I mean, that does play into it, but make it what you want.
Hmm. Okay. Um, Talking about the assassin class just a little bit. Do you think there's any piece of equipment that assassin gets that isn't really useful to assassin in general or you specifically?
Well, I don't do bow, but I know there are like some straight bow assassins. Equipment wise, I don't play assassin with a long very often. I've actually just recently started playing it with a long. And I also don't think heavy throwies are necessarily super useful. I'm definitely a bigger fan of light thrones just because they're faster.
Right.
But I'd say any of them, depending on how you want to play it, could be useful.
Okay. So a minute ago, I asked you about what your default battle kit looked like. You said you usually run 2 shorts, 2 points everywhere, and you've got your bag of throwaways. Is there anything that would make you deviate from that build out? Like, have you ever
Um,
run either of the archetypes?
I usually, my regular kit falls right into Ruffian. So I usually will run Ruffian, even though it's kind of if you land this, rare achievement, you get an extra thing, and that's really all you get from Ruffian. But that's what I usually end up running. I have ran Spy a few times, which Spy you cannot wear any armor with it.
Right.
But not really. Like I said, I've started picking up a long recently. It's not a max long, but I'm a big fan of stabs. So that just slightly longer than a short really messes with people when you go to stab them. They think that you're not in their range, but you actually are. So that's fun.
I've seen that a lot with serious tournament fighters that have really like
Mhm.
dialed in exactly how far you can go. And if you've got a just like not a min length long, but just like a 38 or a 39,
Yeah.
you can surprise them, and then they don't know what to do with
Hmm.
it. And that trick doesn't work very long, but it can get them for a short amount of time.
Hmm.
So, which of the assassin's mini abilities do you like the best?
Oh, the best? Well, I mean, probably Blink. Blink is your most useful. Oh, no, I take that back. Probably Trickery now. I love Trickery, the newer ability Assassin got. It is so good because you can just do so many absurd things with Trickery now.
For anyone
Um,
at home who doesn't know, trickery is the ability to become insubstantial while you're already insubstantial. So
yeah,
if an assassin has shadow step, they can then blink out of their shadow step without becoming vulnerable in the physical world again.
yeah, it's super fun to blink, walk into the middle of a group of people, because you're already, and then shadow stepping and being able to come out just boop right in the middle of them and just start wailing. That seems to be from my newest kind of playthroughs super good against pushes. Like if you have a group of people pushing towards you, you're like rushing up while you're in sub and everyone's like, oh God, and they're hitting you, but it's not doing anything. And then they push past you and then you come out and you're already right behind them.
Mm,
Chef's kiss.
okay. I feel like I saw somebody doing that at March event to
Mm-hmm.
good effect. Because that, yeah, being able to get around the 10-foot restriction that Blink has is pretty strong, I think, and that definitely was a needed boost for Assassin. Which ability do you like the least in Assassin?
Um, Hold person. Uh, it's good, but it is command. So, over half of the field's going to be immune to it anyway. And, you're probably going to be wanting to hold. The only person I could think of would be a warrior, but then they can just make that immediately shorter anyway.
Right,
So
take it
it
off.
seems to be in, my play style the least useful. I still use it, but mostly for distraction than actually holding someone still.
Okay. When you're using that whole person as a distraction, are you trying to like fully cast it, or are you target faking out people? What can you talk
Um,
about that a little more?
yeah, usually I'll be, if I see like a healer that is, right on the cusp of that 20-foot range that's healing someone on the front line, I'm going to be yelling that whole person as loud as possible to get that front line to turn around to look at me so my team can get an advantage.
Mm,
So
okay.
I'm using it as more of a, hey, over here, like
Okay, I can
that
see
kind of
that.
thing. Yeah,
So you're announcing your presence without yelling, please pay attention to me.
essentially, yeah.
Okay, I like that. How often and how are you using your teleport as an assassin?
Ooh, so Bridge Wars, for instance, this last Bridge War uh, teleport was my go-to. Especially with our match against Kingmakers, I was coming out of spawn because teleport doesn't have a range. You can teleport pretty much as far as you want to.
Hmm.
And you also don't have to be out of a certain range of enemies to come out of it. So I was teleporting just right behind their line, coming out of it and just rolling. And I did that probably at least 5 times. I mean, it's super, super useful if you know where your enemy's going to be or you know where you need to get to and you need to get there quick and it's far away.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like a good use case for it there. Have you trickeried out of your teleport?
I have not. Usually my trickeries are between my shadow steps and my blinks. I have shadow stepped and then like trickeried into a teleport, so I could get farther than 50 feet away, but I haven't done it reversed yet.
Okay. Let's talk about how we can fight against you, because the paragons are always the problem, right? If I am a magic user, what can I do to mess with your game plan?
Um, well, you got to know I'm there first, and that seems to be an issue for a lot of people. Uh, I I like messing with wizards, right? It's one of like the funnest parts of if I'm not taking things super super seriously. I'll find a wizard that has like a banish or oh, what is the spell that makes you just die when you're in
Dimensional
sub?
Rift.
Yes. So I'm side note, my home park is the Grim Garrison. So I am there with Dart and Subutai, and all of them have like started picking up these like spells specifically for those reasons. But coming out of N-Sub in the middle of them like casting that and then going back in and then like them starting to cast or getting like tracked out and you essentially starting the end camp to go back in and finishing it right after you get tracked out. So you're just immediately back in. Um, that's always fun. But as a caster, keeping like a few banishes or something like that, honestly lost because you're like, you know, throwing assassins shenanigans back at them at that point, because we can't use trickery on your loss. It's only on our end subs. So anything like that, really, as far as casters go, would be a good. Which we're not um, immune to any like spells or anything like that as assassins. So we're kind of free reign. If you can get something to land on us, it's gonna land. So that
Okay.
is kind of how that
So
goes.
just getting those spells to stick is the hard part. Once they're there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Melee fighting. I know that assassins are always sneaking up behind people. If a melee fighter has seen you coming, what can they do about that besides just waiting for you to show up?
Are you meaning like if I'm insubstantial
Yeah, like if you're
specifically,
teleporting
or?
that, like that Bridge Wars example you gave a minute ago, where you're teleporting
Mhm.
right behind their line, they know that you're doing that, and there's not a
Mhm.
ton they can do. I think that that's just sort of a rough spot for them to be in, because either they have to divert and pay attention to you the whole time, or they stop paying attention to you, and that's where you come out and you start rolling the back of the line there. Is there any any tactic you've seen that specifically has stopped you in that scenario?
Well, I mean, there used to be the tactic of if an assassin is blinked, to just follow them around, because then they're
Right.
essentially never going to be able to come out. But that's kind of not as much of an issue anymore. Essentially, keeping one person that is a melee fighter on the back line to watch for any kind of flankers, I feel like it's always a good idea.
Mhm.
Like keep one of your like decent fighters towards the back. That way they can help either let you know that they're coming or take care of you in general.
Who do
Yeah.
you see on the kingdom fields that are filling that role of the back defense that's happening? Is it
Bards are a really good spot for that because they still have their 2 points of they can still have their 2 points of armor, and they can have sword and mortar or flow, and the use of spells. So I feel like bards are really good at being that kind of mid back
Mhm.
kind of area. So I feel like that would be a good spot for them. And also a wizard that's good with stick would be perfect for that kind of situation as well.
Okay, I can see that. So people
Mhm.
that have an answer for that in sub and can back it up with their stick skills is who wants to be
Yeah.
holding back that. Okay. What about archers? I feel like I've seen assassins get hit with arrows before, but they almost always yell in sub afterwards. Like, are archers a concern of the assassin at all?
Um, Usually for me, if I'm running into an archer, 9 times out of 10, it's more so going to be a scout that is using bow
Mhm.
versus an actual archer. And they'll track you out, and they might get one shot off on you, but I'm wearing 2 points. Okay, it's broken, but you're dead. So there is that kind of how I go about that. I mean, your bows are going to be rough because we only get the 2 points. You go 2 shots essentially.
Mhm.
One, your armor's gone. Better make it count. Better be rushing whoever just shot that arrow at you. So, but I don't think archers. I don't get targeted by archers much normally that I can really pinpoint anyway.
Okay. Um, Following up on that with the scouts, then, because the scouts I feel like are the natural enemy of the assassins, right? They get the tracking to pull you out of insub. It seems like their class is almost designed as a soft counter for assassin in a counter flanking position. Do you have a lot of trouble with scouts? How are you dealing with that?
I'll be honest. I think paladins are more of the anti assassins than scouts are. Paladins are immune to literally everything that assassins can do.
Hmm.
Um, they're immune to command and death, and that's literally all of our stuff except for just pure stick skill. So I avoid paladins on the field at all costs. With a scout, usually I have enough confidence in my stick skill, depending on who it is, to go ahead and take that arrow shot or one great weapon slice, depending on if they're using that version
Mm-hmm.
of scout, and just go in. But yeah, if I see a paladin, I'm going to the other side of the field.
Okay.
So,
That is not the answer I expected there, so thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Um, all right. So, how can other players support assassin?
Um, Honestly, having two assassins, two assassins work together so well. It can get downright nasty. Like staggering teleports. Oh, so just have one person go in, everyone's like, oh God, and then the other one teleport just 3 seconds afterwards, destroyed. It's Like
Okay.
nothing's happening. Um, Having someone that can give you protection against like projectiles is also super handy in case you do get one of those random arrow shots. You don't even have to worry about it, you know. But assassins kind of, I feel like, can. It's our job to help the rest of the group versus the rest of the group help us. I feel like assassins are definitely a support and not in like a magic type of way, but like a melee support.
Okay. So there aren't any like super boosting enchantments for assassins or anything like that out there?
I mean, imbued weapon would be nice. Then we don't have to just put our poison back on and recharge it over and over, but we can do that if we need to, you know?
Hmm.
We're wearing the 2 points of armor, so your, lichen won't stack on it unless we want to just take the 2 points off. Um, Esol is super nice, obviously. Protection against any kind of like magics, because then, you can't get you're banished and all of that
I
going
can see
on.
that, yeah.
So that would be super handy. I guess that would probably be the most handy, but it's going to be the hardest to weasel out of someone too. So
Those high value enchantments are always in
yeah.
demand. Okay. Um, how do you choose who you're going to target on the enemy team?
I first and foremost, I'm going after, the people that are hanging back. So I'm pinpointing your healers. I'm healers mostly. That is like my main goal 9 times out of 10. So I'm looking for the red sash. Once I get the healers out of the way, I'm going for your wizards because they're usually back there too, and usually you can like pop them off pretty quick while you're back there because they don't normally have anything protecting them per se. And if you can get that past, then you move on to your like midline, but that's not necessarily where you're meant to be unless if you are kind of told to be there, if that makes sense. uh,
Okay.
I feel like assassins are also super good at helping with pushes, like I said earlier. So if you do see that kind of happening, you need to. That's when you go for that like front line, like back of front line. But other than like those few instances, your main is kind of hanging back, taking care of those people that are helping the people up front. So
Okay. Um, so you go after the healers and then you go after other casters. You're trying to get through them to the midline.
mhm.
Is there any like target you wouldn't go after? Like I know you said paladins or something that you don't like to chase after, but is there a reason why you wouldn't try to assassinate someone?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, you're heavily armored people. If you can get up there and get those hits, even if you can get like 2 or 3 hits off on them, that will help your front line tremendously. Other than that, there's not going to be anyone that I'm purposely avoiding other than your like heavy hitting paladins. Those are the people unless I have to go after them, I'm probably not gonna. But yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of it.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense there. How often do you find that you're to respawn? Like I feel like with assassin being so per life heavy
Mhm.
that res versus and being a flanker, opportunities to get resurrected are pretty low. So there's a lot of respawning going on. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I never expect to be res ever. Because usually I'm so deep in, it's not going to happen anyway. Like, none of my people that can do that are going to be able to make it to where I am. So I don't even bother waiting around for it. And like you said, all of our abilities are per life. So there's really no reason for me to not just go ahead and take that death. And we are kind of glass cannons, a little bit, less glassy, I guess, but, heavy duty plastic cannons rather.
I
So,
like that. Okay.
yeah, it's our job to die. We just have to take out as many people as possible in the process of dying. So,
Okay. Yeah. So I want to shift gears a little bit and start talking about being a paragon and what that means. So what does being a paragon mean to you? Has this been a long-term goal? Like what is that accomplishment for you?
it's a huge accomplishment for me. I never really expected to be a Paragon Assassin. I thought that my assassin had gotten pretty decent, but it's kind of crazy, not gonna lie. But in my head, a Paragon is like when you think of a class, who do you think of? 9 times out of 10, that person's gonna be one. Does that person know the class and know the class well? Like, for instance, I'll just use myself as an example because I don't know what anyone else's answers would be. But if you asked me what the most important thing an assassin can know, it's not going to necessarily be your abilities. It's going to be, do you know where your placement should be right now? Because that's way more important to an assassin than actually, and probably going to get crucified for saying that, but then actually knowing all of your different like versions of insubstantial. Like, do you know blink and do you know where you're supposed to be right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's super important. And if you ask, an assassin that doesn't necessarily realize like how important placement is, I wouldn't say that they are to that assassin like Paragon level. Same way with like healers. Do you know which people on your team that you need to be getting back up and which ones you need to be letting go back to spawn? That kind of thing. Like, do you know how to play the class to the best of your ability and also how to play it in the most useful sense for an entire group that you're working with?
Okay. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out on their assassin journey? Maybe they're playing level 1, or maybe they've got a couple levels in. What's something that they can be doing to try to improve? What would you tell them?
Yeah, work on getting your stick good. That's like the main thing. Like, yeah, you're probably going to be hitting mostly backs, but if your stick's good, you're not restricted to that. And an assassin that can take you on as a flanker, but also if you and your teammates turn around and they can still take you on like straight on, that makes a world of a difference. Ask, everybody at your local park to spar, like get comfortable dying. Like, it's okay to die in battle games, like do not be afraid to get into a messy spot because you're going to die, because you need to die multiple times to get better. So that's like my main thing for new people is, hey, let's go die a couple of times. And then when you get back to spawn, be like, why did I die? And then next time go about it just a little bit different and see if that helps.
Okay. What is something you look for in a potential Paragon now that you are a Paragon?
I haven't even thought of that part yet. So I guess in my head, like you were saying at the beginning of this, Paragons are generally supposed to be, some of the hardest people on the field. So like, oh, has so-and-so killed me 7 times now? Like, how has that happened? How are they able to do that? And I feel like that definitely in my mind will ping like maybe they're just really good at this class. So I think that's going to be a big one. Like, who am I seeing the most? Who seems to be doing the best? Which healer is constantly having their hand on someone's shoulder, or, something along those lines.
Now that you are a Paragon, you have the right to take on apprentices. Have you thought about doing that? Do you have anybody lined up?
Yeah, my boy Ishan in my company messaged me literally the next day and was like, "So, homie, you gonna take me up on that?" And of course, I was a little hesitant at first, imposter syndrome and all that. But reading through, all the notes that were made on the Paragon board, I was like, okay, I feel a little more confident. Yeah, sure, I'll take you on as an apprentice. We'll see how this goes. And when Ishan can get his placements down, he's gonna be it's gonna be rough. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch him grow into a beast of an assassin.
Awesome. Well, maybe someday he'll be on the show too.
Yeah.
We're down to the final 2 questions. The big thing that a lot of people are wanting to know out there, people can be a bit intimidating at events. Are you okay with people coming up and talking to you about assassin things? Can they come up and talk shop?
Oh, yeah. I'm always down to talk shop about pretty much anything, as long as I'm not in the middle of running an event. Whew, that's stressful. Don't do it then. But any other time, I'm 100% down to talk shop about assassin stuff or garbing stuff or art stuff or anything, just tournament fighting, whatever you want to talk about, I'm down.
All right. Do you have any final advice or recommendations for all the little assassins out there before we let you go?
Yeah. So like I said, don't be afraid to die. It's okay to make mistakes. No one expects you to be perfect. If someone's being mean to you for making a mistake, it's probably on them, not on you. Be patient, be kind to yourself. It is not an easy class to master. Our skill set is small, and you need to get that small skill set almost perfect to get to that master level. I would say. So like, take your time, like work on your stick skill, and eventually, with time, it'll come.
All right. Well, a special thank you to Vin for coming on the show tonight. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions for Vin, please leave them down in the comment section. I'm sure that she wants to get to spread some of her knowledge now. If you are a Paragon and you want to be on the show, reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, please be sure to subscribe for more battle gaming content.
Thanks for having me.